Alysa Liu wasn't even inside the arena 10 minutes before the most important, legacy-defining performance of her entire life was supposed to begin. It was the opening week of the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics, and the tension surrounding Team USA had reached an absolute, suffocating boiling point. For Alysa, this was supposed to be the cinematic moment, the grand, triumphant return. The exact second the burnt-out, former teenage prodigy proved the entire world wrong and reclaimed her throne on the ice. But instead of locking in, visualizing her routine, or doing off-ice jumps in a quiet, focused warm-up zone, she was stuck in the back of a van. A literal vice presidential motorcade had completely paralyzed the sprawling, ancient streets of Milan, leaving the United States national champion trapped in a deadlocked security gridlock, while her fiercest international competitors were already inside the arena, lacing up and executing their final edge checks. In the pressure cooker world of elite Olympic figure skating, a sport where a fraction of a millimeter on a blade can mean the difference between global glory and devastating heartbreak, routine is everything. Most athletes would have arrived in tears. Most would have had a full-blown panic attack, feeling their lifelong Olympic dreams dissolving into the Italian traffic. But when Alysa Liu finally burst through those heavy arena doors with literally minutes to spare before she had to take the ice, she wasn't hyperventilating. She wasn't panicking. She was laughing. She laced up her skates in an absolute blur, completely skipped the televised 6-minute warm-up that athletes rely on to feel out the ice, and stepped directly into the blinding Olympic spotlight. And what she did next shattered every preconceived notion of what an Olympic skater is supposed to look like. She delivered a short program so intensely joyful, so radiantly, defiantly brilliant, that it silenced every critic in the building. When she went up for her signature double axel and landed with a slight, wobbling imbalance, she didn't grimace. She didn't shoot a terrified, apologetic glance at the judges' table like a scolded child. Instead, she flashed this bemused, funky, totally unbothered facial expression. Later on, when reporters frantically asked her about the mistake, she just shrugged her shoulders, smiled her trademark smile, and said it was like, oopsie. That oopsie moment wasn't just a quirky reaction to a shaky landing. It was a manifesto. It was a revolution broadcast to millions. It signaled to the entire world that the Alysa Liu standing on the ice in Milan is a fundamentally, radically different human being than the broken teenager who vanished into the shadows 4 years ago. She isn't just back to win medals, she is back to win her life. And as it turns out, when you finally stop caring about the cold, calculating scoreboard and start genuinely caring about the art of the sport, you become completely, utterly unbeatable. To truly understand the sheer, earth-shattering magnitude of Alysa Liu's Olympic gold medal return, you have to rewind the tape. You have to look into the hollow, exhausted eyes of the girl who cast a massive shadow over the sport as a child. Before she was the unapologetic rebel queen of Milan, Alysa Liu was the ultimate, manufactured project of the American figure skating machine. Born in Clovis, California, and raised in the high-stakes, hyper-competitive world of Bay Area figure skating, Alysa was built to be a weapon. Her father, Arthur Liu, famously invested over $1 million into her skating career before she even walked the halls of a high school. Her entire existence was engineered for the podium. By the age of 12, she was the youngest skater in the history of the sport to land a triple axel in international competition. By age 13, she achieved the unthinkable, becoming the youngest United States national champion in history, shattering a long-standing record held by the legendary Tara Lipinski for 22 years. She was the chosen one, the golden child with the perfect braids and the permanent plastered-on smile, who was tasked with single-handedly saving American women's figure skating from the dominant quadruple-jumping Russian juggernauts. But behind the velvet curtains and the glittering sequin dresses, the prodigy was suffocating. Her childhood was a rigid, unyielding grid of 5 a.m. alarms, bone-chilling morning ice times, and homeschooling in the backseat of a car while stuck in California traffic. She was a natural, vibrant extrovert trapped in a world of profound, echoing isolation. She was protected by a strictly controlled bubble that kept her away from normal peers, yet completely brutally exposed her to the 24/7 scrutiny of internet message boards and hypercritical skating fans who dissected her every jump, her every meal, and her every fluctuating growth spurt. By the time she reached the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics at just 16 years old, she was a shell of a human being. The ice princess facade was violently crumbling. She was landing incredibly dangerous, joint-crushing quadruple jumps for a sport she had genuinely, deeply come to loathe. While the world watched her finish in a highly respectable 6th place on the biggest stage in sports, surviving a COVID-ravaged, scandal-plagued Olympic Games, Alysa was internally counting down the seconds until she could take her skates off for good. She wasn't fighting for a spot on the podium in China. She was fighting for the exit door. Just weeks later, after securing a bronze medal at the World Championships, she shocked the globe by officially announcing her retirement. The 16-year-old phenom didn't just walk away from the sport that defined her entire existence. She sprinted. For 2 full years, her expensive custom-made skates gathered dust in the dark corner of a closet. In fact, Alysa later admitted in devastatingly raw interviews that for a long time, she literally didn't even know where they were. This was the lost era of Alysa Liu. But for her, it wasn't a loss at all. It was the first time in her 20 years on Earth that she actually found herself. She did every single thing the strict, archaic, pearl-clutching skating world told her she shouldn't do. She went on wild, unstructured road trips with normal friends who didn't know the difference between a Salchow and a Lutz. She enrolled at UCLA to study psychology, finally experiencing the chaotic, messy, beautiful social interactions she had been completely robbed of for a decade. She traveled across the globe to Nepal, trekking all the way up to the base camp of Mount Everest, trading the hyper-refrigerated, sterile air of the ice rinks for the dangerously thin, biting oxygen of the Himalayas. She dabbled in casual volleyball and tennis, just for the sheer fun of moving her body without a judge holding up a scorecard. During this sabbatical, she aggressively reclaimed her own identity. Figure skating is a sport deeply obsessed with a specific, highly traditional, conservative aesthetic. Alysa rejected that entirely. She dyed her hair with bold, unapologetic, platinum raccoon stripes. She got a frenulum smiley piercing hidden behind her upper lip. She developed an alt-rock Gen Z style that would have made a traditional Soviet-era skating coach faint on the spot. She was living what she happily called her best life, and she was absolutely unequivocally convinced she would never step on a sheet of competitive ice ever again. She later admitted to the media that she low-key really hated skating. She wanted absolutely nothing to do with the corporate machine that had stolen her youth. But in early 2024, something subtle but undeniable shifted in her soul. It wasn't a desperate phone call from the US Figure Skating Federation begging her to return. It wasn't a coach offering her a lucrative new contract. It was a casual, completely untelevised ski trip with her friends. As she carved down the mountain, feeling the biting winter wind on her face and the pure, unadulterated adrenaline of speed, her brain started to whir. She realized something profound. She didn't actually hate the ice. She missed the dopamine hit. She missed the feeling of flying. She didn't hate the act of skating. She hated the toxic, suffocating system that surrounded it. So she quietly went to a local, public skating rink, surrounded by clumsy toddlers and weekend hobbyists, just to see if her body could still remember the movements. She laced up her old, worn-out, broken-down boots, stroked down the ice, went up for a double axel, and she landed it perfectly. That single jump was the spark that ignited a roaring inferno. But this time, the rules of engagement were going to be completely, radically different. If Alysa Liu was coming back to the international stage, it wouldn't be on her father's schedule. It wouldn't be for the Federation's medal quotas. It would be entirely, 100% on her own terms. She would choose her own music. She would choose her own radically different costumes. And she would adopt a fiercely flexible, mentally healthy approach that prioritized personal joy over the Olympic podium. The 2025 season was supposed to be a gentle testing ground, a low-stakes way for Alysa to see if she could still hang with the world's absolute elite after years of eating pizza and going to college parties. Instead, it became a scorched-earth campaign of technical brilliance and raw, emotional honesty. When she arrived at the 2025 World Championships in Boston, the international media narrative was entirely focused on the dominant orange wall of the unstoppable Japanese national team. Nobody expected Alysa Liu, who had been back in full training for less than 12 months, to be a serious factor for the gold. Then she took the ice. She delivered a personal best short program that left the entire field completely stunned. She skated with a depth, a nuance, and a quiet maturity that her heavily drilled younger self simply didn't possess. She wasn't frantically trying to impress the judges, she was trying to share her art with the crowd. In the free skate, she was an absolute revelation. She became the first American woman in 19 agonizing years to win the world title, ending a haunting, humiliating drought that had plagued the United States program since Kimi Meissner in 2006. But the most important, culturally significant part of that victory wasn't the gold medal draped heavily around her neck, it was her reaction sitting in the kiss and cry booth. She was sobbing uncontrollably, not out of relief that she had met expectations, but because she felt profoundly, genuinely proud of the art she had just created. She had successfully reclaimed her sport from the demons of her past. She told reporters in Boston, point blank, that medals do not validate her. "I give myself validation when I create art," she declared. This was the birth of Alysa 2.0, the skater who treats the Olympic Games like a theater stage and the scoreboard like an irrelevant afterthought. And that brings us to the heart of the 2026 Milano Cortina Games, where the Blade Angels officially took over the world. The nickname started organically in a group text between Alysa, Amber Glenn, and Isabel Levito. It was a way to signify their deep sisterhood in a cutthroat, deeply isolating sport that usually demands bitter, locker room rivalry. Together, they have become the most popular, culturally relevant trio in American skating history, a group of unapologetic rebels who refuse to fit the outdated ice princess mold. In the highly anticipated Olympic team event earlier in the month, Alysa was the pulsing electric heartbeat of the American squad. Despite the absolute chaos of the VP motorcade and the complete lack of a physical warm-up, her spectacular second-place finish in the short program secured Team USA 9 critical, momentum-shifting points. She skated with a wild freedom that was highly infectious. When Team USA stood on the top step of the Olympic podium to receive their repeat gold in the team event, Alysa was the one jumping the highest, screaming the loudest, and living in the absolute present moment. And then came the now legendary medal scandal. In her wild, uncontainable excitement, she had been jumping up and down so aggressively that the heavy gold medal literally snapped right off its official Olympic ribbon and violently slammed into the hard arena floor. It got very scratched up, pretty dented, she joked in a viral interview, laughing at her own clumsiness. Horrified Olympic officials eventually stepped in, politely offering to take the broken, damaged medal back and replace it with a pristine, fresh one from the vault. Alysa looked at them and pushed back. She flat out refused. She told the bewildered officials that she actually liked the medal better when it was broken off the ribbon. She felt deeply attached to the imperfections. To her, that dented, battered, heavily scratched piece of gold perfectly reflected her own career arc. It wasn't pristine, it wasn't perfect, it was a little scratched up, but it was entirely, undeniably real. That single, authentic moment endeared her to millions of young fans around the world, who were completely exhausted by the overly polished, PR-trained, robotic Olympic narratives we are force-fed every 4 years. Tonight, February 19, 2026, the climax of the Winter Games. Alysa Liu steps back onto the ice for the individual women's free skate. The stakes are as high as they can possibly get in the sporting world. But if you look closely at her in the backstage warm-up area, while her rivals from Japan and South Korea are pacing nervously, staring blankly at the floor, and crumbling under the monolithic weight of their national federations, you will see Alysa Liu casually clutching a plushie of Pochita from the anime Chainsaw Man, eating a bowl of udon noodles, and chatting with her coaches about her favorite TV shows. Tonight is the moment of truth. She is the reigning world champion. She is the Grand Prix final winner. She is the overwhelming, undeniable favorite to end a 24-year drought for an American individual women's gold, a curse that has haunted the U.S. since Sarah Hughes shocked the world in Salt Lake City back in 2002. But as the announcer calls her name, Alysa Liu isn't thinking about the national anthem. She isn't thinking about the history books. She is thinking about the hype. She glides to the center of the ice. The arena goes dead silent. She takes her starting pose and does something no one expects. She exhales a long, deep, cleansing breath. Her new free skate program is a pure, unfiltered reflection of her newfound agency. She didn't skate to some mournful, tragic classical concerto designed to beg the judges for artistic components. She stepped out in a shimmering, edgy gold dress to the booming, unapologetic, disco-infused crescendo of Donna Summer's MacArthur Park Suite. It was bold, it was weird, it was groovy, packed with synths and horns. And it was absolutely magnificent. The technical breakdown of the performance that followed was a marvel of biomechanical efficiency and mental fortitude. She didn't go for the bone-crushing quadruple jumps that had once destroyed her teenage body and fractured her mind. Instead, she focused ruthlessly on the absolute supreme quality of execution. Every single one of her 7 triple jumps was landed with a buttery, effortless flow-out that earned massive grade of execution bonus points from the stunned judging panel. Her spins were perfectly centered, her footwork sequences were blazingly intricate, and her component scores for artistry were the highest of her entire career. But the real, undeniable magic of this Olympic performance was happening in the negative space between the elements. Between the jumps, Alysa was actively engaging with the 12,000 screaming fans. She was making eye contact with the front rows. She was performing for the people, not at the judges. The BBC commentators noted live on air that she looked like she was having the absolute time of her life, a phrase rarely, if ever, used to describe the suffocating, terrifying environment of an Olympic final. This unbothered, radically joyful energy was her ultimate superpower. She had successfully found a way to be the world's best athlete without letting the pursuit of being the world's best athlete consume her soul. When the final triumphant notes of Donna Summer's anthem rang out through the Milano ice skating arena and Alysa struck her final, exultant pose, the result felt entirely inevitable. The arena completely unglued. The 12,000-seat stadium turned into a white-hot wall of sound. Alysa pumped her fists, threw her head back, and soaked in the deafening roar of a crowd that knew they had just witnessed history. When the score flashed on the Jumbotron, a massive, season-best 150.2 for the free skate, bringing her total to an untouchable 226.79 points, the reality finally set in. The Oopsie Queen was now the undisputed Olympic queen. She had successfully held off the fierce onslaught from the reigning world champions from Japan. She had officially killed the 24-year American gold medal curse. But more importantly, she had completed the most improbable, inspiring, full-circle journey in the history of the Winter Olympics. With this monumental victory, Alysa Liu didn't just win by copying the abusive robotic systems that had dominated the last 20 years of the sport. She didn't win through starvation, overtraining, or fear-based consistency. She won by being the most authentic, grounded, and human person on the ice. Her victory represents a massive, fundamental, seismic shift in how the sport of figure skating operates. It proves, definitively, that longevity, agency, and mental health are not just nice things to have in sports. They are actual, tangible, competitive technical advantages. Her gold medal is a blaring siren message to every young, burnt-out athlete in the world who feels the exact same suffocation she felt at 16. It says that you are allowed to walk away. It says that you are allowed to have a rich, vibrant life outside the rink, the field, or the court. It says that your inherent value as a human being is not tied to your athletic actions, your medal count, or your ability to rotate an axle in the air. The United States Figure Skating Federation, which once viewed a 13-year-old Alysa as a calculated project to be managed, now has no choice but to view the 20-year-old woman as their absolute savior. Yet, standing at the absolute pinnacle of global sports, Alysa remains radically, hilariously humble. She told reporters in the mixed zone after the medal ceremony that her absolute favorite part of the historic night wasn't actually getting the gold medal. It was the fact that she got to aggressively celebrate with her friends, hug her competitors, and then go out late into the Italian night to get some pizza with her siblings. She is the first truly relatable GOAT, greatest of all time in modern figure skating history. Success for Alysa Liu in Milan isn't about the heavy piece of metal hanging around her neck. It is entirely about the autonomy she fought tooth and nail to reclaim. She showed the entire world that greatness isn't measured by how much pain and abuse you can quietly suffer in the dark. It is measured by how much you can bravely choose for yourself. She chose to quit when it was killing her. She chose to return when it sparked joy. She chose her music. She chose her coaches as equals. She chose her wild raccoon hair. And in the end, the judges chose her. As she stood on that highest podium in the heart of Italy, the American flag rising slowly into the rafters and the anthem echoing through the stadium, she didn't look like a programmed machine that had been polished and polished until it lost all its humanity. She looked exactly like a girl who had lived 1,000 different lives in just 20 short years and had finally, beautifully, found the one that fit her perfectly. Alysa Liu didn't just win a gold medal in Milan, she won her life back. She proved to a generation of kids watching at home that the single most graceful, powerful, and rebellious move you can ever make on the ice isn't a quadruple jump. It is the uncompromising decision to be exactly yourself, regardless of what the world expects of you. The 2026 Winter Games will be remembered in the history books for many things, but the legend of the Rebel Queen will be the one that changes the DNA of the sport forever. Milan belongs to her. The drought is dead, and Alysa Liu is exactly where she chose to be.